But unfortunately, that strength that he has as a visionary could be the reason why he might not achieve exactly what he's trying to achieve. And I'm going to explain to you step by step why I think so. And I will appreciate if you give me a feedback on what you guys think of my thinking. Because remember, this is the army of smart people. All of us are smart and we can definitely converse on serious topics that affect us on a day-to-day basis. This is why I think Kenya's President William Ruto is a very visionary leader. I think he sees very far. He sees years ahead, and that is why probably he was even able to have an ambition of becoming Kenya's president, coming from nothing to something, and he was able to achieve it. You don't become a president of a nation like Kenya coming from nothing, coming from a family that is considered nothing. It is not an easy journey unless you are definitely a visionary, unless you're someone who is very ambitious, unless you're also someone who is very meticulous in your actions in terms of implementing exactly what you want to do. But unfortunately, that strength that he has as a visionary could be the reason why he might not achieve exactly what he's trying to achieve. And I'm going to explain to you step by step why I think so. And I will appreciate if you give me a feedback on what you guys think of my thinking. Because remember, this is the army of smart people. All of us are smart and we can definitely converse on serious topics that affect us on a day-to-day basis. Now, before I do that, let's go back and differentiate two types of leaders. We have leaders who are called visionaries, and then we have leaders who are called action now grinders. These are people who get things done now. Yeah, they get things moving. They are doers. As soon as you give them a responsibility, they run with it. Now, but visionaries are people who have a plan. They don't move unless they have a plan. They see very far and they try to take whatever or the people they are leading towards that direction. The only challenge that visionaries face is that there is normally a disconnect between what they are seeing and what the people are seeing at the present. And it takes a lot of work for you to communicate between what you are seeing and what the people are seeing. You need to bridge that gap so that the people and you are on the same page. The doers on the other side sometimes move too fast without direction. They get things done, but in the wrong direction. All in all these types of leaders have strengths and weaknesses, and we just have to embrace whoever we have at the moment. Now, Kenya has a visionary president, and the visionary president in Kenya is facing potentially all the challenges that visionary leaders do face. I'll give you an example. He is lonely. He might not say it, he might not speak it out, but if you are a very good observer of behavior and people, William Ruto has a plan that he is struggling to communicate to his people, is struggling to communicate to the people that he is leading, and is struggling to find people who can communicate what he's trying to achieve very clearly to the public. But he has not lost hope on his plan. The only problem is time is running out. I'll give you examples of visionary leaders and how these leaders found themselves lonely in the same situation that William Ruto is finding himself. If you go back to the story of the Bible, there was this gentleman by the name Moses. So Moses goes and tells the people of Israel that their time to leave Egypt has come. He tells them that he's going to deliver them out of the land of suffering. Now, if you have ever gone through suffering and someone comes and tells you it is now time, it is coming to an end, of course you will embrace. The Israelites were happy that finally they are leaving Egypt. Yeah, especially after they had seen some of the miracles that the God of Moses had done in front of Pharaoh. So they were happy and they were all excited that they are finally leaving Egypt. Now, what Moses told Israelites was that he is delivering them from bondage and he's taking them to a land of milk and honey. What Moses didn't say is that it's going to be a long journey, that even some of you who are leaving this place might not get there, that you are going to go through the wilderness, that we are going to suffer hunger. We are going to suffer harsh environmental conditions in the wilderness. Some of you are going to die. It is going to take us some time. But I promise you that the God that delivered us out of Egypt is going to get us to Canaan. He didn't do that because clearly Moses was not a very good communicator. It is well known that he was not a very good communicator. So it means there was a gap between Moses and the people of Israel. And that explains why the journey became too long. And at one point, Moses went to communicate with his God. And when he came back, he found that the people of Israel had lost sight of what the vision was. They had forgotten that the journey was for them to trust the God of Moses and their God to deliver them to Canaan. But why did that happen? It happened because once they started facing challenges, once they saw the adversity that is in the wilderness, they ran out of patience. They didn't believe anymore that Canaan was actually the destination. That if God really wanted them to get into Canaan, why did he get them through all these struggles? So the people of Israel lost sight of the vision and they started praising and glorifying other gods. Another example is the Jesus of Nazareth. So Jesus of Nazareth comes as the hero, as someone who's going to be the hero of the Jews. And the Jews finally believe that they have someone who is coming to fight and to revenge against the Roman Empire for the atrocities and all the bad things that they had done to them. The Jews knew, or they thought, that is the kind of leader that they are going to get. But Jesus of Nazareth comes and tells them that, you know what? I am taking you. This is the journey of eternal life. But what he didn't tell them is that eternal life, of course he told them that eternal life is the destination. And the Jews didn't understand, why are we focusing so much on the eternal life, yet our enemies are here. We can see them, they're here. Let's just fight them because we were promised that our Messiah is coming and you are the Messiah. And our Messiah is going to give these people a run for the things that they have done to us. Now, to this day, the promise of Jesus of Nazareth to deliver his people to heaven still continues. Some of the people have lost sight of what Jesus of Nazareth had promised. Some still believe, but a majority have lost sight. But the promise to deliver, the vision of getting into heaven still remains very much alive. Now, bring it back home. William Ruto. William Ruto is a visionary because I have seen some of the economic policies that he's trying to implement, and I can tell you without a shadow of any doubt, those are long-term policies. Those policies are not going to bring any significant immediate impacts. And when William Ruto went and told Kenyans that he's going to deliver them out of the bondage of the Jubilee administration, the people thought that he's going to deal with the issues here and now, that immediately he gets into power, some of the things he's going to deal with things like hunger, things like inflation, things like employment, things like misuse of government funds, corruption, all those kind of things. People were expecting that to feel an immediate impact because one of their own had finally risen to the throne and that he was going to do exactly what he had promised them. Now, if you ask me, I don't think that he has lost sight of what he had promised them. The only thing I think is that he has taken a longer route to that. And that longer route is what he has struggled to communicate to the people. And even if he has tried, the communication has not been as effective as it should. And as such, the people are feeling the pain. And he continues not to communicate very clearly on where he's taking them. And even his people, the people that he is leading with, are not communicating effectively. So what is happening is there has been a growth of disconnect between what William Ruto is seeing and what the people are seeing. Now, as an economist, these are the things I think William Ruto is seeing and is trying to achieve. Number one, taxes. Guys, most of these developed nations will not tell you the truth. But when they left after the World War II, majority of them, if you go back in time, you will realize because of the tough economic conditions, the immediate thing that they did was for them to increase taxes. They significantly increased taxes so that they can be able to generate as much money as possible from the people, so that the government can find resources for it to start taking care or controlling some of the economic crisis they were going through. There was a lot of taxes that were put during that time, during the economic recovery post-World War II. Now, the only thing that helped them, the only thing that helped majority of these nations is that they had accumulated a lot of resources as well from countries across the globe that they had colonized, especially, of course, the continent of Africa. So some of the resources that they were able to get out of these countries, they used those resources to expand and to produce a lot of output for their economies. And thereby they created a lot of employment opportunities. And those employment opportunities enabled them to get a lot of taxes out of it. So taxes played a significant role in helping most of these nations to come out of the post-colonial, not post-colonial, but post-World War era. And taxes still remain a very vital component of a country's sustainability. Governments have to find a sustainable way of taxing its citizens. And the sustainable way of taxing its citizens has to be in a way that you are also increasing productivity. Because taxes come out of productive people. Unless you're productive, you cannot get anything to pay the government. So the government has to find a way of improving productivity so that once you improve productivity, it also has a positive impact on the taxes. And that is why William Ruto said that it's about time we start focusing on the production side of the economy, something called the supply side. And once you focus on the supply side of the economy, the supply side of the economy is able to create opportunities for then the government to generate its own revenue. And when the government generates sufficient revenue, then the government is able to be sustainable in and of itself. Now, how do you sort out things like the production side of the economy? The production side of the economy, you have to look at your strengths as a country. Is it agriculture? Then you push a lot of resources towards agriculture so that you can be able to generate a lot of output out of that, and some of it you export, and so some of it you add value to it locally. And you are able to ensure that people are actually getting a lot of employment, people are actually getting a lot of food security. Now, as to how far he has gone to doing that, I don't know. But that is one of the policies that he has been pushing as a president. Another one, he has been speaking very significantly and seriously about something called debt. Guys, over-reliance on debt as a nation is not sustainable. The only problem with debt is once you get used to it, it becomes a cycle. You cannot get yourself out of debt unless you sort out your production side of the economy, unless you sort out your government revenue side of the economy, unless you deal with something called corruption, so that you can utilize the little that you have productively, so that you don't have to always rely on borrowing. But the situation that most of African governments have found themselves, they are in a place where debt is their day-to-day solution as soon as they hit a dead end. But the problem is, if you are relying on debt, it covers your face and you forget about the production side. You don't necessarily work so hard to make sure that productivity increases. When you sit back and know that you can always access money, through debt, then you will always take that option. Now, William Ruto is saying we need to stop borrowing. And he said that very strongly, even during Uhuru's time. We need to stop borrowing. Now, as to the level of stopping that, I don't know. What I know for sure, it is one of the things that he is pushing as a leader. And that is one of the things that, of course, any leader should be pushing against. You should be pushing against borrowing. Significant borrowing of money as a country should be stopped. Yeah? The other thing is, he has spoken against using our foreign capital or foreign denominated reserves to stabilize the Kenya shillings. He is saying that you don't need to do so much math trying to balance out how to stabilize the Kenya shillings. Why can't you just stabilize the Kenya shillings through production, produce, and then you export, and you'll be able to get a lot of foreign capital, and the foreign capital will give you a very good basis for you to stabilize the Kenya shillings, which is actually should be the reality. Most of developed countries actually have stable currencies because they're exporting. And how do you export? Through production. So when I look at those things, to be honest, those are the things that presidents should be talking about. That is exactly what a typical president should be talking about. But the reality is this. This is Africa. Our circumstances are slightly different. And while a visionary leader like William Ruto can see that, implementing that might prove to be a serious challenge. Why? Because for you as a country to completely run away from debt, especially with the situation that most of our countries are in, you need a lot of time. You need more time. You need more time to improve productivity. You need more time for you to be able to convince people to sacrifice the now and to focus on the production side and to start exporting. You need more time. It needs a psychological shift, which will take time. 5 years is not enough as a president to be able to achieve that. Unless you're very sure that you're coming in for the second term, 5 years is not enough. That is number one, the time factor. You don't have that time. Number two, most African countries are here where we are. We got ourselves here accidentally, but we have stayed here by design. The debt situation in Africa, I am guaranteeing you, is not, we were here accidentally. After the World War, there was a lot of economic crisis, and most of the vulnerable nations, which Africa is, majority of African countries are among them, had to rely on international economy for them to be able to deal with the crisis that they were facing at that particular point in time. A lot of our resources had been transferred to foreign countries. A lot of our leadership was new. We were just gaining independence. We were just getting independence, and we needed resources for our governments to be able to manage that period of time. And as a result, we went out and borrowed and asked for money and asked for assistance, which we got. But that assistance, once it came into Africa for the first time, an opportunity created itself to the developed countries to take advantage. And they took advantage of it fully. And they made it now, they designed everything now to make sure that some of these situations we might never get out of anytime soon. And because of that design, you will realize that it will take more than a president moving around the country or the continent or the globe just speaking for any change to happen. For as a country to run away from the debt situation, it will take more than William Ruto to be speaking in international forums, because that has been done before. It is not new. What he's doing is not new. And the people you are speaking to exactly want the situation to remain as it is. So what are you going to do different? Because just moving across the globe, you are utilizing more resources than you should even be using, because they have had those kind of things before. How different are you going to tell them so that they can listen? And if you think it is that easy, there is a group of people called the BRICS, countries called the BRICS: Brazil, Russia, India, South Africa, and China. That is exactly what they are trying to do. They already saw these are emerging markets. They have shed off the poor countries tag, and they have gotten into the middle income countries. And they have tried, and they have already seen some of the economic atrocities that have happened or are still happening. And that is why they thought of building or creating a different forum where they can be pushing this agenda. Now, if our whole block of the BRICS is finding it a bit hard to achieve some of these goals, because I've listened to William Ruto speak, and some of the policies that are being pushed by the BRICS are the same. How are you going to, you are a leader of one African country. How then do you expect your speeches to make any significant change? Speaking has been done. We have had great leaders before. We have had people speaking against these kind of things, but nothing has happened. And that is why I think William Ruto now should start relooking at some of the strategies that he's using. If he had 20 years in power, I can guarantee you William Ruto will achieve. If William Ruto had 20 years in power, I am telling you, we will look back as Kenyans and we will be proud of what he would have done by then. But he doesn't have that time. So what that means is the things he's trying to do make a lot of sense for people who understand. But those things will not be achieved within the time frame and within the mountain of opposition that he's trying to fight. He's trying to get into a space that he's definitely going to get a lot of backlash. And those two reasons alone make me think that William Ruto will not manage. And then finally, him and the people he's leading, just like Moses and the Israelites, just like Jesus and the Jews, they are not on the same page. What Kenyans want now, or what Kenyans wanted, whatever Kenyans wanted during elections and what they want now has not changed. Whatever William Ruto wanted to do during elections and what he wants to do now has not changed. There is a gap between what he wants to do and what Kenyans want to be done. And he has done the communication. The communication has not been good at all. And that is going to be very tough for him to manage within the remaining period of time as a president of the Republic of Kenya. My brothers and sisters, that is my take for today. Thank you very much. Please subscribe to this channel. I would love that you become a member of this army of smart people, because I want you to get better in understanding matters economics, finance, business, and accounting. And I will be here to take you through it all. Thank you very much.